Sometimes, the most terrifying mysteries don't begin with screams or shadows. They begin with nothing. No sound, no movement, just a quiet house. And a truth waiting behind a closed bathroom door. The afternoon that changed everything for the Rebello family started like any other day in Perth sunlit, ordinary, forgettable. A gentle breeze rolled through the neighborhood, the kind that makes curtains sway and gives a false sense of calm. From the outside, nothing suggested that inside one home, a life was seconds away from ending, and a dark chain of lies was about to begin. Tragedies rarely announce themselves. Inside the Rebello house, the shower was running, steam drifting softly through the hallway. The scent of warm water and shampoo hung in the air. It should have been just another moment in the life of 58-year-old mother Colleen Rebello, a woman known for routine, discipline, and an almost motherly precision to the way she lived. But that afternoon, something was wrong, terribly wrong. Her teenage son, Fabio, pushed open the front door, expecting the familiar sound of his mother bustling around the house. Maybe cooking, maybe talking to the family dog, maybe humming softly while folding laundry. But instead, the silence felt heavy, too heavy. And the longer it lasted, the more his chest tightened. He called her name. No answer. He listened again. Just the hiss of running water. Fabio's heart tapped faster against his ribs. His mother was never late to pick him up. She was the kind of woman who worried if she was even 1 minute behind schedule. That day, he had called her 13 times, each unanswered ring twisting his stomach a little more. He walked down the hallway, slowly, half concerned, half in denial. He didn't want to imagine anything was wrong. Not yet. So he called again, louder this time. Still nothing. When he finally reached the bathroom door, a cold draft swept under it, brushing against his ankles. It made him shiver. His hand paused on the doorknob. Opening that door meant facing whatever was on the other side. And something inside him already knew it wouldn't be good. When the door swung open, the world seemed to tilt. There she was, Colleen, on her knees, slumped forward, her body pressed awkwardly against the tile. Water mist floated around her like a ghostly fog. Her skin was pale, too pale, her face touched with a bluish-gray tint that no living person should ever have. Everything inside Fabio broke at once. He rushed to her, pulled her limp body toward him, dragged her away from the wall. His trembling hands fumbled for a towel, for warmth, for something, anything he could still do. And then, in a desperate, frantic blur, he started CPR, his arms pumped. His tears fell. His voice cracked as he begged his mother to breathe. But the water was warm, and she was cold. When paramedics arrived, they took one look at her, and their faces tightened. They moved with urgency, but their eyes told a different truth. She was already gone. Fabio's call to his sister, Monique, was barely understandable through his sobs. She raced home, still in her paramedic trainee uniform, her mind trying and failing to make sense of what he'd said. Their mother had been alive, healthy, cheerful just that morning. She had driven Fabio to work. She had spoken to Monique before she left. There had been no warning, no sign of pain, nothing out of place, at least. Nothing anyone had noticed yet. But the first crack in the story appeared almost immediately. Fabio, grief-stricken but sharp in detail, mentioned something small, something subtle, that didn't sit right. Her gold watch. Colleen never, ever showered with it on. And her earrings, she always removed them first. The non-slip mat, her daily safety habit, wasn't inside the tub. It was hanging over the edge, as if someone had placed it there hastily. At first, these were just murmurs of confusion, the kind of details grieving families cling to when the truth feels out of reach. But they lingered. They grew. And soon, they would unravel an entire reality the family thought they knew. To understand how the quiet home of a mother became the center of a national nightmare, You have to go backward to when life looked picture perfect on social media. While Colleen lived modestly, her son Andre Rebello was building a flashy online world with his influencer girlfriend, Gracie Piscopo. Their life, as Instagram saw it, was flawless. High-end restaurants, luxury cars, designer outfits, tropical vacations, perfect lighting, perfect poses. They were the couple people admired, envied, even idolized. As Gracie's online presence exploded, earning nearly $170,000 a year, Andre stepped deeper into her world. He became her assistant, her manager, her financial organizer, her everything behind the scenes. But he earned only $20,000 a year, a tiny fraction of the income he handled for her. While she was posted everywhere, glowing under ring lights and brand deals, he was a background figure, always present but rarely acknowledged. That imbalance settled silently between them, and slowly a different kind of pressure began to grow, one that would soon swallow everything. Their son was born, their following grew, their brand solidified. And with every new deal, every new photo shoot, every new endorsement, the need to maintain the illusion increased. From the outside, they were living in a spacious home and driving a shining Range Rover. But behind their walls, debt, more than $120,000, unpaid taxes, over $40,000, and Gracie didn't even know, unpaid rent, months overdue. And his crypto investments? They had earned a grand total of $22 in 3 years. The beautiful life they sold online wasn't real. They were drowning. And Andre was the one holding the secrets. This wasn't the life he had imagined when he first stepped into Gracie's glamorous online world. He wanted success of his own, something he could claim, something that didn't rely on being behind someone else's spotlight. But his attempts, crypto, brand managing, personal ventures, never went anywhere. And the more their finances collapsed, the more desperate he became. Desperation has a way of turning into something far darker. While the online world praised Gracie and Andre's perfect life, Colleen saw through it. She had raised 4 children on her own after her marriage ended in 2010. She was a teacher, hardworking and grounded, a woman who understood sacrifice and responsibility. And she didn't like what she was seeing. Her youngest son, once focused and promising, had abandoned university to become absorbed in a world of filters and half-fake realities. As she watched him drift deeper into online culture, spending more time editing posts and chasing digital validation than securing a stable future, her concern turned into worry. She confided in her sister, telling her she didn't trust the path he was taking. But despite her fears, she loved him unconditionally. She wanted the best for all her children. She wanted Andre to succeed, but she also wanted him to stay grounded, to stay true. She had just finished her own milestone, earning her degree in 2020 to begin a fresh career in healthcare. At 58, she finally had a chance to build something new for herself. But that chance never came. May 25, 2020 began as a normal morning. Colleen spoke to her children. She moved through her familiar routines. She drove Fabio to his job at 10 a.m. She planned to pick him up at 2 p.m. Then, nothing. Her phone stayed silent. Messages went unread. Calls went unanswered. By the time Fabio walked home and stepped through that quiet door, her life had already ended. Police arrived. They checked the home. They looked for signs of a break-in. Nothing. No forced entry. No stolen items. No clear trauma. The cause of death? Unknown. Eventually labeled natural causes. But that answer didn't sit right with her family. They weren't conspiracy theorists. They weren't dramatic. They were simply her children who understood her routines, her habits, her patterns. Details that police saw as trivial were the very things that told them something had gone wrong. But they had no proof. Not yet. Weeks passed. The grief settled in. Life tried to resume its rhythm. And then, out of nowhere, police received a call from an auto insurance company, not about Colleen's death, but about suspected fraud. A routine review had uncovered suspicious paperwork. Paperwork tied to Andre, the kind of paperwork that did not match any application Colleen would have made. The kind of paperwork created just 1 week before she died. 3 policies, worth over $1 million. All naming Colleen Rebello as the sole beneficiary, not 1 cent to his siblings. And when investigators dug deeper, they found more. Dates that didn't match. A birth date listed incorrectly Colleen's policy, showing Andre's birthday. Altered medical documents. A supposed cause of death that contradicted her autopsy. And then, most alarming of all, a new will. One that left everything to Andre. Handwritten, signed, witnessed, except the signatures didn't look right. And the story behind it sounded even worse. Forged psychiatric evaluations. Fabricated medical records. An AI-generated voice note supposedly from Colleen. Each lie stacked on top of the next. Was this grief? No, this was intent. This was planning. This was a scheme. And suddenly, Colleen's death didn't look natural at all. Then, something else emerged, something that shook the family even more. On the day Colleen died, around 1:30 p.m., her sister had stopped by the house. She noticed a car parked in the driveway. A car she didn't recognize. Days later, she saw the same car at the funeral. It was Andre's. But the strangest part? He never told his siblings he had been there that day. He never mentioned visiting their mother. He never mentioned being in the house. When questioned by police, Andre admitted that he had gone to see her that morning, but only for 45 minutes, according to him. Except the timeline didn't match. His phone records. The car sighted outside. The unanswered calls from Gracie. The silence during the exact window when Colleen likely died. Something was wrong with his story. Terribly wrong. As investigators looked closer, they realized Andre had not just lied by omission. He had been planning something far bigger, far darker, and far more calculating than anyone suspected. They learned about the deleted files on his computer. Everything wiped after July 2020. They learned about his secret handling of all of Gracie's finances, including debts she never even knew existed. They learned that the glamorous lifestyle he portrayed was collapsing behind the scenes. And suddenly, the question shifted from, how did Colleen die, to why did she die? And chillingly, who benefited? When news of Shannon's disappearance spread through town, it moved like a cold wind slipping under every door. People whispered her name in grocery aisles, exchanged worried looks at gas stations, and checked their locks twice before sleeping. This wasn't the kind of place where someone simply vanished. Not a mother, not a wife, not someone everyone had seen just days before, smiling, working, living. But what disturbed investigators even more was how strangely quiet her own home felt. Detective Melissa Rowan was the first to pick up on it. She visited the Maydill residence 2 days after Shun vanished. The husband, Joshua, opened the door with a soft, practiced sadness, as if he had spent hours rehearsing how to look devastated without completely falling apart. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice trembling in all the expected places. But Melissa had been in this job long enough to know that the expected places weren't always the genuine ones. She stepped inside. The house was spotless. Not just tidy, sterilized. The kind of clean you only see in houses staged for sale, or scenes scrubbed to hide stories no one is meant to hear. Children's toys were stacked too perfectly. Laundry baskets were empty. The faint smell of bleach lingered under the sweeter scent of air freshener. "Your neighbors said you two were preparing for the weekend?" Melissa asked casually, her eyes scanning the room. "Yes," Joshua replied quickly. "We were going to visit her sister." She was so excited. His tone was light, too free of hesitation. Grieving spouses don't usually sound rehearsed when talking about their missing loved ones. Melissa took note. She also noted something else. Shannon's phone charger sat neatly by her side of the bed. Her favorite jacket hung untouched in the hallway closet, and her glasses, the ones she needed for reading, rested on the knitstand. No woman leaves for days without these things. Not willingly. Joshua continued talking, showing Melissa the kitchen, then the living room, then the yard, repeating details she hadn't asked for. He claimed he'd been frantic, searching the local park, calling her friends, checking hospitals. But a quick, discreet check revealed there were no call logs to hospitals on his phone. And the neighbors said they hadn't seen him leave the house once on the day he claimed to have searched outside. Melissa didn't confront him yet. She simply let the silence do the work, because silence always exposes the guilty. Meanwhile, the search tightened. Teams combed through forests, fields, and abandoned lots. Volunteers formed long human chains, moving slowly across muddy ground. Dogs sniffed through brush and thick grass. Drones scanned from above, their cameras searching for any sign of life, any sign of Shannon. Every hour that passed without finding her only deepened the community's dread. Then, on the fourth day, a volunteer spotted something near the edge of a shallow creek, a thin scrap of fabric tangled in thorn bushes. It was light pink, Shannon's favorite color. It was a torn piece of her blouse. And that one small finding changed everything. When officers returned to the Medill home with this new evidence, Joshua's demeanor shifted. His shoulders stiffened, his jaw clenched. Gone was the overly helpful husband. In his place stood someone slightly colder, annoyed, almost inconvenienced by the interruption. "Are you saying she was injured?" he asked sharply, his voice losing its practiced tremor. "We re-saying someone might have tried to make it look like she wandered off," Melissa replied, her gaze steady. Joshua's eyes flickered, just for a second. But that second told Melissa everything she needed to know. People don't flicker when hearing someone they love might be hurt. They panic, they freeze, they lose their breath. Joshua showed irritation. That was the wrong emotion. "Is there somewhere you'd like us to search next?" Melissa asked, testing him. He swallowed. "No, I don't know." He couldn't even pretend to be helpful anymore. She noted that too. As more officers dug into Shannon's life, a picture began to form beneath the perfect suburban surface. Friends admitted that Shannon had recently become quiet about her home life. Not sad, just guarded. Her once easy laughter had grown shorter. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. A coworker mentioned that Shannon once showed up to work with a faint bruise under her sleeve. She'd brushed it off, saying she bumped into a cabinet. Another friend recalled Shannon canceling plans abruptly after Joshua called her 3 times in a row, his voice audible and angry through the phone. It was painting a picture, not definitive, not yet, but deeply troubling. Was Shannon afraid of her husband? Someone finally asked the question everyone was thinking. No one wanted to answer, but in the heavy pause that followed, the silence meant yes. 2 nights later, a local farmer called the sheriff's office. He had found something strange near one of his outer fields' fresh tire tracks leading into the woods, where vehicles normally never went. The mud was pressed deep, as if a heavy load had been carried or dragged. Officers arrived quickly. The tracks were erratic, then straightened, then abruptly stopped. A few meters ahead, the ground was disturbed, not by animals, not by weather, by shovels, freshly moved soil. Melissa approached slowly, her breath tight in her chest. She didn't need confirmation to know what they had found, but protocol demanded it. They dug. Shannon's body was discovered buried shallowly beneath the roots of an old oak tree. Her hands were bruised. There were marks on her wrists. Dirt was packed under her nails, and her face still, pale, robbed of breath long before her body touched the ground. She had fought hard, and she had lost. The news spread like wildfire. People gathered in clusters on sidewalks, hands on heads, tears on their cheeks. Shannon wasn't just another missing person on the news. She was a wife, a mother, a neighbor, someone who waved at strangers and held doors open. The town wanted someone to blame, and every single one of them already knew who that someone was. When officers brought Joshua into the station for questioning, he maintained the same innocent confusion he'd shown from day one. He repeated his rehearsed lines. He insisted on timelines that no longer made sense. Melissa let him speak. Then she placed the torn pink fabric on the table in front of him. He froze. Then she placed a photo of the burial site. His throat bogged. Finally, she played a recording of a neighbor, stating that they heard loud shouting from the Medill house on the night Shannon was last seen. His eyes shifted downward. The walls he'd built for days began to crack. "You think I did this," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "We don't think," Melissa replied, her voice firm. "We know." Joshua closed his eyes, and for the first time since Shannon vanished, something resembling real fear crossed his face. Not fear of loss, but fear of consequences. There was a difference. A damning difference. Just when officers were ready to arrest him, an unexpected detail emerged, something so odd it shifted the entire case yet again. The forensics team reported that the fingerprints on Shannon's wrists didn't match Joshua. Someone else had grabbed her, dragged her, held her down. Joshua wasn't innocent, but he hadn't acted alone. There was another person involved. Someone who had been hiding behind the scenes all along. Someone who knew the Medills far too well. The case was no longer just a domestic tragedy. It was a conspiracy. A planned act. A secret shared by more than one set of hands. And the discovery of that second person would change everything. The search for Shannon was over, but the hunt for the whole truth had just begun. When the dust settled on Colleen Rebello's death, a grim truth began to surface. The picture-perfect life her son, Andre, paraded online was a glittering mask hiding debt, desperation, and a chilling scheme. Colleen's sudden passing was ruled natural causes, a verdict that brought a hollow comfort. But that comfort was about to be shattered. It all started with a routine call from an insurance company. This single call would unravel everything. Andre had taken out 3 life insurance policies in Colleen's name, each worth over $1 million, just a week before she died. He was the sole beneficiary. When investigators dug deeper, they found a web of lies. Incorrect birth dates, altered medical records, fabricated psychiatric reports, and even an AI-generated voice note pretending to be Colleen. Her family had already noticed small, unsettling details. Colleen never showered with her gold watch on. Her non-slip bath mat was always in place. But on the day she died, these routines were broken. It wasn't just strange. It felt intentional. While Andre and his partner, Gracie, posted photos of luxury trips and designer clothes, their reality was collapsing. They were months behind on their $880 a week rent. The Range Rover was leased, with payments overdue. They faced over $120,000 in unpaid bills. Andre's solution to this financial ruin was a plan darker than any debt. The eldest sibling, Julian, moved in to sort out his mother's affairs and made a shocking discovery. Colleen Zee's personal documents were gone. Her mail had been rerouted to Andre's address. Then, a crucial piece of the puzzle emerged. Colleen's sister testified she saw Andre's car at the house on the day of the death, a visit he never mentioned. His timeline didn't add up. Police installed covert cameras in Andre and Gracie's home. The recordings were damning. Gracie was furious when she discovered the insurance policies, having known nothing about them. Andre, meanwhile, calmly talked about leaving the country after he got the payout. The timeline was now clear. Andre had the opportunity to be alone with his mother for over an hour. Computer forensics showed he'd wiped his devices, trying to erase any trace of his plan. While the official cause of death was uncertain, small marks on Colleen's body suggested a struggle, possible suffocation. A motive was greed. The insurance money was his ticket out of debt. In November 2022, Andre was arrested. The trial revealed the full extent of his deception. He had faked documents, lied about his whereabouts, and manipulated everyone around him. For the Rebello family, the betrayal was absolute. Their brother had murdered their mother for money. The courtroom was silent, heavy with anticipation. Months of evidence, witness testimonies, and psychological analysis had all led to this single moment. For the family, for the community, for Colleen Rebello, it was the moment justice would either be served or denied. Andre Rebello sat in the defendant's chair, calm on the surface, but a subtle twitch betrayed the tension underneath. He had maintained a composed front throughout the entire investigation and trial, carefully controlling every expression, every reaction, every word. But now, he couldn't hide the weight of what hung in the air. Detective Melissa Rowan watched from the back, remembering the first day she stepped into the Rebello house. The spotless floors, the eerie silence, the careful smiles, all hiding something far darker. She knew that months of work, digging through deception, and uncovering hidden truths had brought them here. Over 8 weeks, the trial meticulously laid out the case against Andre. The prosecution revealed 3 life insurance policies taken out in Colleen's name just days before her death, all naming Andre as the sole beneficiary. The suspicious timing alone cast a huge shadow over his innocence. Investigators then unveiled a web of deception: a fake will, altered medical records, fabricated psychiatric reports, and even AI-generated voice recordings. Each element was designed to mislead authorities and secure a huge financial payout. Andre's timeline of events began to crumble. He claimed he had left his mother's house early, but his aunt testified she saw his car there at 1:30 p.m. His partner, Gracie, made frantic calls during that time, but they all went unanswered, highlighting more inconsistencies. Then came the digital evidence. Files, browsing histories, and financial records had been wiped from Andre's devices, a calculated move to destroy any evidence of premeditation. There were physical clues, too. Small cuts and scrapes on Colleen's arms and near her eyebrows suggested a struggle, possibly indicating restraint or even suffocation. While the exact cause of death couldn't be determined, experts confirmed suffocation could leave no obvious marks, aligning with the prosecution's theory. And the motive? Andre's mounting debts, his failing crypto investments, and the fact that his partner was completely unaware of their financial troubles painted a clear picture. This was not an accident. This was murder, planned for personal gain. Witness after witness took the stand, sharing moments that shook the courtroom. Gracie Piscopo, Andre's partner, explained she had no idea about the life insurance policies and how furious she was when she discovered them. Her voice cracked as she described realizing the extent of his deception. Andre's own siblings testified about his suspicious behavior on the day of their mother's death and the removal of her personal documents. Forensic experts presented evidence of disturbed soil and tire tracks, pointing to a calculated effort to conceal the crime. The prosecution's closing arguments were precise, cutting through every lie Andre had spun. They highlighted the manipulation, premeditation, and ultimate betrayal. Andre's defense argued he meant no harm, and that Colleen's death was from natural causes. But the weight of fabricated documents, altered timelines, and the financial motive was just too overwhelming. After weeks of testimony, the jury retired to deliberate. The tension in the courtroom was so thick you could feel it. Family members clutched each other, some wiping tears, others just staring at the floor. The memory of Colleen, the mother, the teacher, the woman who raised her children with love lingered in every corner of the room. The deliberation lasted 2 days. Finally, they returned. Silence fell. The forepersons stood, their voice steady but heavy. We, the jury, find the defendant Colleen Rebello guilty of murder. A collective exhale filled the courtroom. There were sobs, shakes of relief, and looks of shock. And for the first time, Andre's calm demeanor faltered. The mask had finally fallen. For the Rebello family, justice wasn't about restoring what was lost. Colleen's life could never be returned. But her murder had been acknowledged, her memory honored, and her children could begin to grieve knowing the truth had prevailed. This story is more than a tragic crime. It's a chilling reminder that trust can be manipulated, even by those closest to us, and that curated online lives can hide dangerous truths. Greed and desperation can push people to do the unthinkable. But it also shows that meticulous investigation and persistence can expose even the most carefully constructed lies. Colleen Rebello's life, once carefully curated with filters and fabricated success, ended stripped bare. He lost his freedom, his family, and any semblance of the life he tried to control. In the end, what remained was clarity, justice, and a lesson that resonates far beyond this case. Deception may work for a while, but truth always endures. The case may be closed, but criminology never sleeps. Like and subscribe at Join Criminology, and step deeper into the dark with us.